back to Kindercrafty. Today I have a book review for you. Raising Boys by Steve Biddulph. I probably butchered that. I loved this book. If you're a mom of girls, please listen to it, the book review anyway, because this author also wrote a book called Raising Girls. I really loved the format. I started it last spring. I know you're thinking it took you a long time to read it, but we had a really busy summer. My son learned to swim. We went on vacation. So now that he's back in preschool, I have a couple of minutes to myself. And then once, I dove back into it, I couldn't stop reading. So I want to share just a couple of excerpts from the book that really touched me. So the reason I picked it up is because the boys on the front looked about like my son's age. He just turned 4 in September, so they look like they're about that preschool age. And plus, I just noticed that in the last, 6 months or so, my son has just gotten really boy and is really put the baby stage behind him. He no longer wants to play with the little wooden cars. He is into superheroes. He's into Transformers. He is like running and jumping and and so I, of course, started doing research, because if you all have been following me for a while, you know that I love all things childhood development. I love learning about the brain and how it works. This goes into like their testosterone and how it affects how they how active they are, and at different ages when they get that testosterone surge. And that was super helpful for me. It just helps you know that boys and girls are different, and we should embrace it. We shouldn't try to make our little boys sit still and be quiet. You all know that I was a kindergarten teacher for a long time, and it is clear from day one, the girls and the boys, just their energy level is different. The way that they learn is different. And so instead of trying to put boys into a box that says, okay, all students need to act like this, embrace how they are. Know that those stages are coming, embrace it, and let them be boys. So that's what I loved about it. It's not giving boys an excuse for bad behavior. It's saying, moms and dads, listen up. They're going to get a hormone surge at the age of 4. Their testosterone level is going to go through the roof, and they are going to want to be wrestling with dad every night when he gets home from work. They're going to be wanting to put on a cape and run around the house. They're going to want to pretend that they're transforming into Optimus Prime. They're just going to be into action and adventure. They're going to want to climb trees. They're going to want to see how fast they can go on their bike. They're just going to start at about age 4. Really, they just change. So anyway, that's why I picked it up. And so I just want to share a couple excerpts from the book with you. The first chapter that I loved was called Mothers and Sons. Obvious. Mothers and Sons. So I just want to share with you a little excerpt about getting boys to do housework. And I loved this because if you all follow me on Instagram, you have seen me have my son help me do chores. I'm just a proponent of it. Not that I couldn't do it myself, not that I couldn't do it faster. I just think it's really important for him to learn these life skills. So anyway, here we go. It says, it's under preparing them for independent living. It's not healthy for a boy to go straight from living with his parents to living with a partner. An interval of independent living is strongly advised. So we're preparing them, moms, we're preparing our boys for living independently. It's a different age. They're not going from our house to having a spouse. In fact, this book is encouraging boys not to have a few years on their own. And if they're going to be on their own, they have to know how to clean their bathroom. They have to know how to cook a meal for themselves. You know what I mean? They need some of these basic life skills. Okay, so here's another thing that I underlined. As a general rule, cook and clean and tidy for your late teenage son only if you want them to stay home for the rest of your life because they get really used to it. So if you start when they're little, like my son's age, at this point, he thinks it's fun. Like the Swiffer, he has like a whole imaginary world with that Swiffer. He loves the Swiffer. He will vacuum his room for me. He loves to spray with like a method, not a harsh spray, in his bathroom, at the counters. He likes to spray the mirror. That's really fun. Likes to spray in the toilet and in the shower, because anything with a nozzle, that's really fun. It's like a gun. And anything that resembles a sword of any kind, like a Swiffer, really fun. So anyway, start them when they're little and they think it's fun, and then you just continue on. Like, that's just part of the household. That's just part of it. Okay, and the other chapter that really stood out to me was called A Revolution in Schooling. Oh, surprise, surprise. Are you surprised by that at all? No, none of you are. So they talk about something called the Cotswolds Experiment. This was so cool. It was a high school. I believe it was in England. Yes, in England. And the boys were not doing well in English. So they decided to do this experiment where they separated the boys and the girls for English only, and I think maybe one other subject area where the boys weren't doing well. So it was a co-ed class, a co-ed school. So they're going to some of those special arts, classes together. But for the areas where they were struggling, they separated them into same-sex classrooms. And of course, you can probably guess, the boys did better when they were in a classroom with just boys. And the reason is because there wasn't any of that peacocking. There wasn't any of that, trying to be cool, trying to get the girls' attention, trying to look like they don't care about school. It was just that they were just being boys amongst boys. Also, those teachers were prepared to just focus on teaching boys. So they picked books that were more appropriate for boys. They picked different writing styles that boys really gravitated to. And because they liked what they were learning about, they were more free to, really dig into it. And because it was only boys in the class, they were more apt to speak up, to answer questions, and the test scores went up. So I thought that was really interesting. I thought, why hasn't America tried this? Like, I don't necessarily want my son to go to an only boys school. I think it's healthy for him to have boys and girls, but I think it's really interesting that in subjects like math and English, where one, boys excel, and one, girls really excel, to have them be same-sex classrooms, I just thought it was really interesting that the test scores, and they mentioned the girls in this too. So I'm wondering if in the book Raising Girls, if they talk about this Cotswold experiment too, because the girls' test scores in math went up when they were in a classroom with only girls. So anyway, I thought it was very interesting. I only wanted to share those two things with you because the length of this video would just go on forever. I highly recommend it. If you have any questions, please leave them below and I'll try to get back to you as best as I can. But this was an easy read. It was fun because they would do, some research base, which, I love all that nerdy stuff. There's a whole chapter about the brain development, which I think is really cool. And they did letters from parents. They did little anecdotes. They did experiments. It was a little bit of a mix of everything. So it was a really easy, fun read. I underlined a ton, and I'm sure as he gets older, I'll probably underline even more. But I just loved it. Basically, the baseline is boys are different from girls. It doesn't make one gender more superior than the other. But when you embrace it, you bring out the best in them. So instead of trying to stifle the boys and say, sit down, be still, be quiet, embrace that, let them be themselves, and you're going to get a better kid, more well-rounded kid out of it. If you have any questions about early childhood development, about my years of teaching kindergarten, or about this specifically, because I just found it to be very true from my experience of having little ones in the classroom for 15 years. Okay, well, that's it. I really like the book. If you have any questions, let me know, and we'll see you next time.